Swolenormous.
The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, the bacon is sizzling. Welcome to the Daily Swole.
Testing, testicles. Oh, welcome everyone to episode 1236 of the Daily Mother Swole, the most muscular swolecast, beercast, broadcast, gaincast, mancast, pimpcast, sleazecast, and slaycast in the realm, because when I flex, you flex, we all flex our biceps. Welcome everyone to episode 1236, and as you saw, if you don't already know, now you know, I'm here with Christy Mayberry. She is a wonderful member of Swolenormous X, and I want to talk to her, obviously, that's why she's here, and she wants to talk to you, and we're going to talk some shop, and I'm not even going to waste any of anyone's time. I really want you to get to know her and hear her story because it's amazing. So, Christy, why don't you introduce yourself and take it away?
Well, hello. My name's Christy, like Papa Swole told us, and I guess I'll just start with my whole fitness endeavor. I was telling him earlier, I don't like to use the word journey because it's not going to stop. When you start this, you don't stop it. You can't. You keep going. You get healthy. You stay healthy. It's a lifestyle, and it's becomes part of your life. And so that's why I call it my endeavor, my whatever you want to call it. But it's not a journey because there's no end to it. But anyway, let's see. 2 weeks ago, actually, was the 4-year anniversary of when which a lot of this stuff kind of happened all at once. My work switched insurance company, so I had to get a new doctor. So I found one in Network Local who wanted to do all kinds of blood tests on me, blood work, all full panel of everything. Found out that I was diabetic and I had thyroid problems, a couple other issues that were easily taken care of. And obviously I was morbidly obese. I was 310 pounds. And she looked at me straight up and she said, "You are not going to get a pill from me to help you. You are going to do this the right way or I'm not going to be your doctor." And I said, "Okay." Well, about a week later, my dad invited my sister and I to come to his house at the same time, which was a bad omen. We knew something was going on right then. And he told us that he had stage 4 liver cancer. And he only had, they gave him 9 months to a year, but he only lived for a couple of months. Well, after he told us that, my doctor, by law, she had to put me on metformin for the diabetes. And I did some research on it because I'd never taken any prescription meds before. And I did find out that a big side effect of metformin is liver disease and liver cancer. And my dad had taken metformin for years because he was diabetic, but instead of controlling his diet, he increased the amount of metformin he took. So if he needed an extra 500 milligrams a day, his doctor would give it to him. I mean, he was taking 3,000 and 4,000 and 5,000 milligrams a day of metformin for years, so he could eat what he wanted, and his blood sugar wouldn't spike. So finding all of this out, and then my dad passed away, and I was like, "That's it. I can't keep doing this. I have to take control of my health." And so I did. I started out very naive. I didn't know anything. Basically, the first thing I did was I cut out all carbs because I was freaking out. I didn't eat bread, I didn't eat pasta, I didn't eat anything. And of course, I dropped weight from that because, caloric deficit, you lose weight. And then I started slowly doing, I walked on a treadmill. And when I first started, that was the only exercise I did. I could only walk like a half a mile an hour for 10 minutes max before I couldn't hardly breathe. But I know I did it every day. I didn't stop. I didn't care if it hurt. I didn't care. I kept doing it. So then this goes on for several months, and I dropped probably 80 pounds on my own. So I was down to around 230. But I had done no resistance training, nothing like that. Just, low grade cardio and kind of watching what I ate or what I thought was eating healthy. And then I decided to hire a personal trainer, an in-person trainer, 3 days a week. And he did my nutrition plan for me. He told me what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, everything. And I saw amazing results with him for the 8 months that we worked together in person. But he didn't teach me what he was doing for me. I just saw the results, thought it was amazing, paid him all this money. And he ended up getting in a car accident. So we had to do online training. And then it just went from there. It just got worse and worse. I plateaued really badly. He wasn't available to me. And it was just, and I realized I can't rely on somebody else my whole life to keep me in check. I've got to learn this on my own. So I was so scared to send him this message, but I sent him the message after a whole year with him that I didn't need his services any longer, and trying to be nice about it. And he got a little upset, but whatever. Um, and I have spent the past year learning on my own the best way for me for nutrition, for exercise, for building my own workout programs. I did do like your personal training and nutrition certification courses because I wanted to learn for myself what they had to offer. I don't think they're super in depth at all, but they do give you a better perspective on things than your neighbor does. And so yeah, and then I found Swolenormous in February, March, sometime around then, and really, really, really liked the way that he presented the nutrition. I had never heard of an elimination diet, but come to find out when I listened to his podcast about it, and I went to the website and joined Swolenormous so I could view all of his information. I basically already did that. So when I did the elimination diet in May and June, I didn't have to cut out very much stuff because I already wasn't eating most of, the things that you shouldn't eat during the elimination. So it was much simpler for me than it would be for somebody who had not already been, kind of progressed to that far.
How much did you lose? Because I've been showing the pictures. I'll bring it up right now a little bit on the bottom of the screen, just for some context. The pictures that you posted in the community, the one where you were in the pink shirt, your before picture, and then to the after picture. What was your overall? Again, you might hate the word journey. I use it as like vernacular because people say it, but here's this word I hate, your transformation. We've been talking about that lately with all the pictures. People are like, hating on transformations. I want to get your opinion on that because obviously as someone who has had this is what a transformation is. It's not something that happens in 30 or 60 days. It's not, I went from 15% body fat to 13. That's not a transformation. The way you look in the left picture to the way you look today is a completely different person.
In the picture in the pink shirt, I was 310, 312 pounds, about that.
And how tall are you?
I'm 5'8".
Okay.
And then today, sometime in the past week or so, I fluctuate between 147 or 144 and 147.
So you lost about like 160 pounds there.
Yeah, a little over 160 pounds in 4 years. And
that's a really good pace. A lot of people try to. What are your thoughts on? Because obviously you're one of the moderators in our community. What do you say when someone is frustrated with their weight loss and you well know how long it takes to make that kind of change? It's not linear where you just lose 2 pounds a week forever. You'll have months or weeks when you don't lose anything, or you gain a couple pounds, or you fall off your routine a little bit. What do you say to people? Because I get a lot of messages too, and you've probably seen them as well, where you lose a pound a week, and that number one sounds so insignificant. It's 1 pound. But what do you say to people that are looking to lose weight faster and they don't feel like 1 or 2 pounds is enough? They're expecting something more drastic just because they hear so many stories. They see people that I bring on the podcast or that on Instagram that have lost 100, 200 pounds. Wow. So 1 or 2, it just seems like, come on, man, I need to lose some weight. What do you say to people that feel like it's not fast enough? It's never fast enough.
I mean, of course I tell anybody that, it's not going to happen fast, and that no matter what you start out weighing, if you lose a half a pound to a pound a week, you're doing just fine. You figure 160 pounds that I've lost over 4 years, which is 48 months. I mean, whatever that math is, that's a very low average for a monthly loss. You have to be consistent with it. And I don't always see a weight, like a weight change, but I have dropped before 2 pant sizes and weighed the exact same amount because my body composition changes with resistance training, with the nutrition. I'm not bloated. There's a lot of factors that go into it. So you may not see it on the scale, but you will see it in other aspects. You just have to look at everything. You can't just say, that's it. I didn't lose a pound this week. I'm done. But also if you are the type of person that wants to weigh yourself all the time because you just got to check that scale, then I would recommend you weigh, if you're going to weigh yourself every day, that's fine if that's what you want to do. But then you take an average of those 7 days and you compare it to the average of the next week because you're going to fluctuate 3 pounds, 4 pounds. I mean, I know this sounds funny because I'm just a weird person and the people at work make fun of me for this because every time I'm in the bathroom at work, if there's somebody else in there, I do this and I tell them how funny it is. There's a scale in there. Don't ask me why. I weigh myself before I pee and I weigh myself after I pee. And I will lose like zero point 0.3 ounces. You know what I mean?
You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to weigh yourself after you go to the bathroom.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, just even in that period of 1 minute, whatever long it takes me to pee, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've lost 0.3 ounces. So you cannot gauge your weight loss on your daily scale.
Yeah, people love to see, it always comes down to that number. And I've asked so many women, when I was actually doing one-on-one training, I would ask people that were maybe thinking about getting involved with personal training and getting started. And I would say, okay, what if I were to literally give you this body and this body fat percentage? You'll look exactly the way you want to look, your dream physique. But the scale said, let's say they wanted to be 130. And I said, but the scale said 150. What would you say? And the look on their faces were like, oh my God, it's like, forget the scale. You look the way you want to, like the way you're imagining with whatever weight, like you look that way, like trying to, psychologically understand where people get hung up on. Cause that number, I think it's just because we learn to count first thing in our life. That's one of the first things we learn how to do. 1, 2, 3. So everything is measuring bigger, smaller, this, that. It's something we understand that 3 is less than 4 and 7 is more than 6. It's such a psychological ploy because obviously whoever was guiding you was explaining, how'd you learn that? Because it seems, that's where I'm getting to. How'd you learn that your composition was more important than what the scale said? How'd you learn how to get that 3-dimensional approach? Because people that only go after the scale, they're going to hit a lot more of those quote plateaus that aren't really plateaus. They're just not doing a DEXA scan or underwater weighing all the time, or they're not doing, as accurate as calipers or the handheld bioelectrical impedance are, but they're not doing composition measurements. So how'd you learn to discern between those different types of progress measurements?
Well, I mean, a lot of it was, I can't even tell you how many hours on YouTube and Google and just, anything that came to my mind about what I wanted to know, just trying to learn as much as I could. So a lot of it's just, Googling things and finding things. I mean, finding your podcast, finding a few other podcasts that I've listened to off and on. And part of it is a mental thing too, where, like I said, I've dropped 2 pant sizes before without losing a single pound, overall. And, that's a big thing too. When you walk into a dressing room and because you went and you grabbed the size that you think you need and you put it on and it doesn't fit and the next size down doesn't fit. And you're like, wait a minute, and then I've shared, I don't know if I've shared this in the group. I may have put it in a comment, but I mean, one of the big things for me is just how my lower body shaped, it just fell into shape. I have to buy new underwear all the time because either my waist is smaller or the butt's a little bigger or everything's just a little different. But I will wait because I'm perfectly happy with the weight I'm at. Like if I didn't lose another pound the rest of my life, I would be thrilled because, I know that I can make my body look the way I want it to look without dropping all the weight. You don't want to keep going. You don't keep going.
Right.
There has to be an end game for the weight. That's the only end to your fitness is how low you go, Sure.
How did you have periods of over the course of those 4 or 5 years of where you gained weight back? Did you have any period of, I don't want to say falling off the wagon, just like, kind of fell out of your routine or you got discouraged, any points where you quit or, you had that kind of like you got stuck in the mud a little bit? Or was it just kind of, you never thought that, you just kept on going, but any plateaus, any kind of like recommendations or experiences along that way? Because obviously it's never linear. You're going to have those spurts. You're going to have those little kind of boosts where you're training really well. You got a new program or a new style, or you figured out something with your nutrition. Any advice or any perspective on those little ruts that maybe you kind of hit along the way?
I've not ever, fallen off the wagon, so to speak, because when I set my mind to something, that's it. I'm done. It's going to be that way. So I have a very strong mind in that sense. But I have hit plateaus. I have put on, like when we went on vacation in May, and as hard as I tried to eat as well as I could, in a foreign country, um, I had those scales showed that I had put on 17 pounds in a week. I knew that wasn't true. After about 5 days, it all went away, and I was up maybe a pound overall total. Um, the only time I ever actually gained weight, and this, looking back, this is kind of funny, I hadn't thought of this, was when I had my trainer who was doing my meal plans for me. And like I said, I didn't know anything at the time about nutrition, and I was following what he told me to do. Mm-hmm. Every Saturday was a free day, a refeed day, he called it, right? So eat whatever I wanted. Okay, I was literally over 300 pounds not long ago. I'm going to eat whatever I want. So we would go to dinner. I would have, and I do drink beer. I'm not going to lie about that. And I like the 400 calorie beers, the pumpkin flavors, the craft beers, you know.
Shipyard season.
Yeah. And I would literally just kill myself with food on that day because he told me it was okay to do. So then I would be up 3 and 4 pounds on my next weigh-in. And he would say, "Oh, I don't know why you're," and I'm like, "Well, I don't know." He's like, "Well, what did you eat on Saturday?" I'm like, "Well, I had this for breakfast, this for lunch, this for dinner." He's like, "Well, why are you eating so much?" I'm like, "Because you told me to. Like, you said to eat whatever I wanted until I was full." I will tell you this right now, and I know this sounds funny because you say it so much in your podcast that when you eat whole foods or real foods, you get full really quick. I am telling you right now, I could pound a plate of salmon and rice and broccoli and sweet potato and all the goods, and 5 minutes later pound the same plate. Like, I just could eat forever, but I make myself not, you know what I mean? Like, I have that mentality to do that if I allow myself to. I've had to train myself not to. But back to the original question, I would say about the plateaus, I have had them, and you really just have to stop for a second, reassess everything, look at how far you've come, maybe look at little things you could have done differently, but stay consistent. Keep going. Keep whatever's worked for you last month, last week, keep it going. Don't start switching things up because you didn't lose a pound this week, or because you put on a pound, you think, or because your body is not going to, like that when you're all crazy. So.
Right. Did you have this kind of amount of weight loss in mind when you started, or was it more of a, I need to change my shit up, and then you just kind of went until now, and then you're sat, like, when you found that comfortable point where, like you said, the weight I'm at is fine. If it changes, it changes, but like, I'm happy with where I am with like my physique and my health and stuff like that. What was your goal, or what was your mindset when you started?
Well, when I very first started, my biggest goal was to get myself off of the metformin for diabetes. And to do that, I had to lower my A1C numbers to where my doctor and my insurance deemed that I no longer had diabetes, to be taken off of that med. I did that within 8 months with nutrition, eating correctly. So within 8 months, I was completely off the diabetes medication.
What were the major changes to, probably obvious to most people, but specifically for you, what were the major changes in that 8-month period? Because a lot of people watching and listening, I mean, the stats, it's staggering how many people are either in that same situation as you, or like on the cusp and pre-diabetic and are in kind of floating. They don't realize that they have it, or they will within a couple years. What were the major things that you cut out or adjusted with your nutrition in that 8-month period that got you off the metformin?
I completely cut out sugar. I didn't drink pop. I didn't drink Gatorades. I mean, no sugar, no snack cakes, nothing with processed sugar, no processed carbs at all. I didn't eat bread. I did eat sprouted grain bread. I was told, saw online that was okay to eat. I didn't eat lots of it,
the Ezekiel bread, like that type?
Ezekiel bread, yeah, those types of breads. Mm-hmm. And then I did still eat potatoes. That was really probably the main carb I ate. And I ate fruit. I did eat some fruit. I just didn't eat bananas and I think grapes, because they're kind of higher sugar content fruits.
Very, right.
But I ate berries and I ate apples, watermelon, all that kind of stuff. And lots of chicken breast, salmon. Really not so much red meat. Not because I don't like it, just because I tend to, I may have a steak here and there, or a hamburger or something here and there.
Just
Not
the
so much.
flavor is not like just the, is that just
No, I mean I like it, but like I just tend to, I don't know. I just tend towards fish or chicken more so than beef. But I keep grass fed beef in the refrigerator to fry up for
yeah,
stuff.
no
So
problem. I mean, nothing wrong with that either way.
yeah,
Did
but
you,
it's
yeah, did you ever go after or did you ever pursue all in that time period? I'm going to say it in your journey. Now, in that time, within those years, did you kind of pursue any kind of regimented nutrition plan? Not just in the sense like, did you do like paleo or did you do keto or vegetarian or pescatarian? Like, did you ever kind of stay within the boundaries of any kind of structured, common themed diet plan?
Not really. I would say the closest thing to the way that I do eat would probably be a paleo diet, but I'm not paleo. I
Right.
mean, I eat carbs and I eat, stuff, but like I'm not low carb at all, but I'm not super high carb. I like my fats and carbs kind of moderate. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't say I fall into any of those categories because I like to eat all kinds of food.
Right. And because a lot of people tend to jump right into, okay, I want to lose weight. And if they're 315 pounds, 350 pounds, 400 pounds, what's gotten so much popularity is the keto, is the pretty much zero net carb, like minimal. That somehow has become synonymous with like massive weight loss, and ketosis and that kind of diet does have a lot of benefits for specific medical purposes, things like seizures and stuff like that. It's been shown to be really good for minimizing those types of like issues. But like, have you ever dabbled with like really high fat? Have you ever like tried doing something along those lines? Not that you should have, of course, because obviously you're successful, but obviously that's just gotten pushed so hard in the media. And it feels like when people want to lose weight, that's what they think they need to do. And it's, according to what you're saying, obviously it's not the case. That's my point. But did you ever try going and doing something like that where you're cutting out pretty much everything except for like, leafy vegetables and fibrous foods?
Not during this time, no. Way back in the day, of course I did Atkins diet with, the cheer moms on the cheer team and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
But during this journey that I've had with fitness, no, I have not. The closest I probably would have come would be to cutting out complete carbs and being higher fat was at the very, very beginning when my doctor basically told me, that carbs turn into, she was trying to do a simple breakdown for me about how carbs turn into sugar and, you got to watch your, all your carbs and stuff or whatever she was saying. And it freaked me out. So like immediately it was like, oh, okay, that's it. I'm cutting all the carbs out. But I didn't realize at the time because I knew nothing about nutrition that sweet potatoes were actually good, they were sources of carbohydrates. So I was eating all kinds of potatoes. But, that was probably the closest I've come to any kind of cutting something out or not having a macronutrient in my diet.
It seems like everything today is just, it's literally completely to this direction. There's not a lot of in the middle, when it comes to fitness. And I think that's part of, I'm interested in your opinion on this. I think that's part of the social media. I need attention. So I need to really go hard with one thing. So like the whole, I'm not a big fan of the concept moderation. Every time I talk about moderation, everyone automatically thinks food, but it really comes down to, me saying in your individual life, if you want something extreme, then you're not going to get it by putting in average effort. That just makes sense. Unless you win the lottery, you're not going to, by accident. So, if you want amazing results, if you don't want amazing physical results, you don't want to be like chiseled out of like stone or be like a professional athlete, you want to lose weight, be healthy, you might not have to put in as much, it might not have to be as much of a focus, in terms of the training and, buckling down, but it's all like, personal preference. And that's where the keto stuff lies, the keto, vegan, just everything that, or carnivore, everything that's all in. Like, have you ever dabbled or considered any of that? I'm sure you're probably you had leaned more towards probably like a vegan or vegetarian, maybe, if anything. It doesn't sound like you ever went to like the carnivore side. Because that's more recent. That's more recent where people are like, trying that for like extreme elimination. But what's your take on that type of approach? Like when people really go all in on that, because it's very hard to stick to from a habit standpoint, because you're changing fundamentally so many things about, challenging your gut biome, challenging just your shopping habits, your cooking habits, your taste profile. And it's really hard to stick to something when you really like 180 it that much. Like what's your experience with maybe those extremes?
I mean, my opinion would be that um, when it comes to like vegan or vegetarianism, I mean, I don't know. I like meat, so I can't even imagine that I would ever not have chicken or fish.
Hmm.
Even though I remember years and years ago, I mean, it's probably been 15 years ago, when you might remember too, a lot of vegetarians didn't consider fish or chicken meat. It was only beef. Do you remember that? Like,
Yeah.
it was this whole big thing.
Well, people
Um,
thought eggs were dairy they call eggs dairy
Yeah.
for the
So
longest time.
it's like whatever is cool for the minute they change it up to or something. I mean, not just vegetarians or vegans, but just everything. Whatever gets their point across, I guess. But um, I have so many issues, not issues with, but opinions on the keto diet because I have a ton of friends and family who say they have gone keto. And so, they'll tell me what they eat, and I'm like, oh wow, that's really low carb. That's good for you. Like, yeah, and then on Saturday I have a big pizza and some beer, and I'm like, so you're refeeding your carbs that you restricted throughout the week. So you're not in ketosis. So you're doing a low carb diet with a refeed day, and you think it's keto, but it's not. I don't think people understand fully what they are doing. They just take bits and pieces of each type of, whether it's paleo, vegetarian, vegan, you know, keto. They take the bits and pieces that fit with their life, and they do that, and then they say, "Well, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing." Because I think that if somebody really is vegan or vegetarian, and they do it right, and they're getting the nutrients they need, they can be healthy. I mean, they can have a nice body. They can be healthy. I'm sure they can. If they do it correctly. Same thing with keto. If you are somebody whose body responds the best to lower carb intake, I don't know about I think it's under 30 grams a day is what you're supposed to be with keto or something. I think
Yeah,
it's really low.
it's generally like less than 5% usually.
Yeah, and I think that that's very. I think that it's very, unless you have a reason to do it, a medical reason or some reason that you really need to because your body needs you to do it. It's very hard to stick to, and I don't think you're going to maintain it, and I don't think that it's something that you're going to do for the rest of your life. And then what happens when you come out of one of those diets, like kind of like when I restricted my carbs for so long, early on in this, like the first 6 months or so, and then my trainer started having me eat carbs again. Like immediately, I was bloated all the time. I just felt weird, and because your body has to adapt to having that back inside of you.
Yeah.
And I think people do that. They do keto or whatever for a little while. They don't like it, so they stop and they do something else. Their body has to adjust. They see a weight gain or they see something else. They don't like it, and so that didn't work, or that's a bad diet, or I just think that I'm very big proponent of a balanced diet. And your carbs and fats, I think, could be whatever you want them to be, whether you like high carb, low, whatever. But you need to have a balanced diet. I don't think you should cut anything out of your diet.
That's the best way to play with it. Like if people want to drop some weight, or the thing is, most people when they do that, they drop their carb. I want to lose some weight, because when you drop carbs, you flush out water, and that's an easy way to lose a few pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to the beach, and I didn't eat any bread for 2 days. But it comes right back, and that's where a lot of these like extreme diets, you get that initial plunge. Hey, I dropped 10 pounds in a week doing keto. It's like you just peed more, and you're not retaining water. So, and then when people go and they cut these things out, because with social media, everything's popular now, because there's so many people. Usually you would only hear what's popular in your town, or you'd see what's on TV. So like a couple things would be popular. There'd be like the Atkins or the South Beach, and that'd be the only thing you would see around. But now if you want it to be popular, you just type it in and you'll see millions of things. So now you have vegan is through the roof, and then you have keto is through the roof, and carnivore, and everything is really out there. And you get people that think they have to do these extreme things. They have to, abide by these rules. And when you drop things like carbohydrates and you up your protein instead, that's really stressful for the body. People do that. They don't up the fat instead. Like if you're going to play with carbohydrates, make it up with like fat intake. And there's so many good sources of fat. And, recently we had the whole, the demonization of fat. People are not afraid of eating fat anymore in the last, decade. But, your approach is definitely where most people should be focusing, right in the middle, and focusing more on the habits. Like you said, you weren't necessarily focusing on, okay, no carbs, no fat, not this protein. It was more about the quality of the food. It was more about, I'm not drinking soda. I'm not eating cake. I'm not doing those things that you'd have to talk to a 6-year-old to really like find someone that thinks that that they're actually healthy. Oh, cake is wonderful. A human being would say, okay, is this healthy for you? Right. I mean, you have to be pretty out to lunch to actually say that yes. I mean, you can still say no and eat it, but it's everyone knows most people know the basics, but there's this kind of like layer of denial when it comes to food. And yes, calories matter, calories in, calories out, and all that stuff. But that's why I'm so bullish on the elimination diet, because as much as, that's true from like an energy balance standpoint, it's not from a quality of life standpoint, because if you're not getting that many calories, okay, maybe eat fast food and eat 1,500 calories a day, you'll lose weight. Where are your nutrients? Like you're filling it, like you're not eating that much, but you're also eating crap. So you're getting no nutrients and you're getting less just actual energy. Like you just can't function on it. I just feel so much different eating quality foods. And people ask me like, oh, what do you cheat? Do you drink? Do you do this? Like, I mean, I would have a beer if I wanted to. Like there's nothing that holds me back from having a beer, but lately I'll just prefer maybe a little whiskey, or maybe I'll have some wine once in a while. I'm just not really big on drinking lately, but there's nothing that would stop me if I wanted to. I'm a grown ass man. I'll have a beer if I want to. And you're a grown ass woman. You'll have a beer if you want to. But once you build those habits, yeah, but you built that habit to the point now where you're not going to be 310 pounds ever again, because it's such a massive change to what you've already done. You have that momentum. Like, can you ever, like, what's your perspective now after losing all that weight? I'm sure you probably couldn't even imagine being back to where you were and like living like that the way you were. And it's hard to understand a lot of times if you haven't been there in those shoes, but you have been. What do you say to people that are, let's say, losing weight? And you probably get this a lot, or you see this a lot. People get afraid to, put on muscle because they don't want to get fat again. They're afraid to, once they get to that weight, they're afraid of even eating a little bit more. Like, how long you have to overeat to get back to that, especially now that you're exercising in the zone. But people lose all that weight and they're afraid to, indulge or to bulk because they think they're just going to get fat again. Like, do you have that kind of like voice in the back of your head, or when you look in the mirror, like, don't do this? Are you like stressing, or is it more like you have that under control and you're just a different person? And it's almost like just a universe that you don't live in anymore.
I would almost say it's sort of a combination of the two. I know that the habits I built are going to maintain my health. I know that. But you go do something, or, you have something to eat on a Saturday night that you normally wouldn't eat, and you feel like shit the next day. You're got to do leg day on a Sunday. And like, God damn it, and you don't want to go down and do leg day because you feel like crap from being bloated from the night before. I think I'll never go back to that for sure. But I think there is definitely a mental aspect to it. You have to sort of, and it just takes time. It just takes time. It takes, kind of going back to sort of like you were talking about transformation photos, and how there's this big thing now where, oh, don't post your photos because that's body shaming, or whatever the hell people were saying about transformation photos. I tell you, if I didn't have those photos to go look back on to see how far I've come, and I can say, oh, well, that was taken in, May of 2018. And, oh, I remember what I was doing before I took that photo. And I'm like, oh, and look what I mean, you see how your consistency is going to work, regardless of if you've gone on vacation or you had an off day. But I will say that I've never had, I'll probably get some hate for this, but um, when people, when people say, "Oh, I had a bad week. I fell off the wagon, ate like shit for a whole week, and now I'm going to jump right back on it." My immediate thought is, no, you made shit choices for a week, and you did it of your own volition. So what's going to happen in 2 weeks is you're going to make those same choices because you're not making yourself make the right ones when you need to. You know what I mean? So a lot of times I'll see posts like that, even in the Facebook group or on Instagram or something, and I just go right past them because I don't want to, I don't want to say anything mean or anything like that because I'm like, you cannot, your mind, your mental game has got to be on point, and you have to be ready to do this to get it done too. I mean, somebody who doesn't want to quit smoking isn't going to quit smoking. Somebody who doesn't want to quit drinking isn't going to quit drinking. If you are 350 pounds and everybody in your life tells you you're beautiful and it doesn't matter, and then unless something happens to you to make you want to do it and to get your mind in that space, I think it's going to be very difficult for somebody to stick to it and not fall off or have those kinds of things. And I know that my husband, when we met, I was probably, I mean, I was bigger. I was bigger. I was not small by any means, but I was not 300 and some pounds. And he never cared. He liked me fat. He didn't care. And it's funny because now he'll make little comments about, he came in one day, I was sitting on the couch and he said, "Oh, well, I thought you didn't want to look like a bodybuilder." I'm like, "I don't look like a bodybuilder." He's like, "Well, you have all those rounded shoulders." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, get over it because that's my thing." But, I mean, I don't know, you just kind of have to be in the right mindset to do it. And I had a lot of people for a long time, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I heard, "Oh, well, you're tall, you carry it well, you don't look like you weigh that much." Yeah, I fucking did. Yes, I look at those pictures. Of course I look like I weighed that much, but you were just being nice or you just didn't care. I even had a doctor, I had to have a stress test one time. I don't even, it's been years ago. And I don't know if you've ever done a stress test, but they put you on a treadmill, you run really, really fast on an incline for like 30 seconds, you jump off, you lay on a bed, and they make you hold your breath for however long. And you do this like 3 times in a row. I thought I was going to die. I mean, that's why they call it a stress test, I guess. But after it was done, he tells me, this is from a doctor, and I'm obese. And he says, "Well, you're just the healthiest, obese person that I've ever seen. You're fine." So in my mind, as a fat girl, I hear that I'm perfectly healthy. And I'm like, well, my husband doesn't care what I look like. I don't care what I look like. I'm going to go eat a large pizza. So when you have people around you that are always making excuses for the way you look, you have to have a life, not want to say you have to have a life-changing moment, but you got to have something that really changes you. You have to change your mind to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I've said that many times too. I completely agree. Like if you're gonna do it, yeah. Could you bring your camera over a little bit? I just want to center you a little. There you go. Yeah. If anyone wants to do something, it's so simple, right? It's like, oh, if you want to do it, you'll do it. Well, like you figure it out. I mean, human beings, I mean, look what we've created. Look at these buildings. Look at the technology that we've created as humans. If you want to create something, people will work on it and create something. If you want to lose weight or gain weight, I mean, I wanted to build muscle and I really wanted to lift weights and learn how and get involved with it and figure it. So I did. It's not, I mean, a lot of people do. You see it all over social media. People are lifting all the time. And of course everyone has their little nuances and those little differences, but if you really want it bad enough, it's great if you have one of those like, lightning bolt moments that knocks you off your ass and you realize, oh my God, I've heard stories where, a woman's like, running after their child, to grab them out of the street and they just couldn't move fast enough to save their child. Nothing happened, but they realize I am not healthy. I can't protect my kids. So they lose weight and then, it changes their life. And it's like, those types of moments don't really happen for everyone and they don't have that strong support system. And you can hear like from what you said, your doctor, a medical professional was actually like almost like encouraging you to like, hey, you're good. And we know that doctors aren't really educated at all in nutrition. And now they're actually getting shit for calling someone obese, that you're getting fat shamed, and your doctor, I mean, of all people that need to tell you the truth for your health should be your freaking doctor.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
I mean, you know, and with what you said before about body positive, we're talking about, you know, fat acceptance and stuff. That's a little bit like those communities, because people don't have those communities around them. People don't have that in person. So they go online, they follow a hashtag, and they follow these people that tell them that they're okay. What do you have to say to those groups and those movements? You know, not that necessarily anyone that believes in that stuff is watching my podcast, but what do you have to say about that? Because a lot of people, and it might seem like it's all encompassing, that it's safe and it's all loving. Oh, you're beautiful the way you are. It pisses me off because it's not about beauty. That's subjective. You cannot tell someone that something's beautiful. Like, that's opinion. But the health, how can you actually think that if you're 300 or 400 pounds, that you are healthy, that you like, it's in just basic terms, like, it's hard to move, period. That's one. You can't move as well as you can when you're under 200 pounds, when you're over 3 or 4. You know that from personal experience. Like, what do you have to say to people that, you know, get exposed to that kind of, in my opinion, nonsense?
I think, I guess, okay, so I understand why people would gravitate towards that, because as somebody who was obese, you know, myself, you don't want somebody calling you names or being mean to you or whatever. But at the same time, the fat acceptance movements, or healthy at every size, you know, whichever one you want to pick, I guess are kind of the same. You know, that moment that I was talking about earlier, that you have to have in your own mind to kind of get you to the point to say, okay, you know what, I need to make a change. These communities are making it easier for you not to have that moment. You know, they're making it so much easier for you to just say, oh no, I'm okay. I know I'm overweight, or I have to buy a bigger size, but it's perfectly fine. They are kind of, I mean, it's almost like they're not promoting body positivity. They're promoting, please stay fat with us. You know, it's like they want to have this big community, and it blows my mind. When I was over 300 pounds, I knew I wasn't healthy. I knew I didn't look good. I mean, there was not 1 minute of my day that I thought I mean, I couldn't walk. My ankles hurt so bad. If I walked from here to the bathroom, I would limp on the way back. My knees hurt. My back hurt all the time. I woke up every day I woke up every morning. I'm not kidding you. And I took 4 to 6 ibuprofen every day when I first woke up, just to get the pain to go away enough that I could function throughout the day. And you can't tell me that anybody who has to do that is healthy. It's not possible. But yeah, I think these fat acceptance groups are just they're promoting unhealthy, is what they are. It has nothing to do with accepting yourself or loving yourself, and I think maybe at some point, maybe early on in it, maybe that was the goal. Maybe that's what the whole point of it was. But it's morphed into something so much different.
Sure. And that's the thing, is it's not an evil movement in the sense that it does, and on the surface, it doesn't seem that way. And not that it was started in that sense too, but like, I agree. People need to love themselves. I think that's important.
For sure.
You have to accept yourself, but accepting yourself at the expense of the apathy to your health, that is just unacceptable. And I know it's a little bit of a tongue twister, but you can accept who you are as a person and accept your situation, but it's more about taking responsibility for where you are and taking care of your health. Of course, as an individual, you have the choice. Like, hey, if you don't want to be healthy, if you want to eat yourself to an early grave, I mean, you have more than an opportunity to do that. No one's stopping you, unfortunately, but to have people that are going to promote that and to give you a place to have an identity. Now, I don't know if you've ever been like a part of you ever play like a sport, you're part of like a team or an organization?
Oh, way back in high school, yeah.
Okay. But I mean, that's a good time to have done that. So like, you'll understand. So when people, and you know, people, I'm sure they're like, their entire life, they played field hockey or soccer or basketball, and that was like who they are. People create that identity. And it's the same thing in professional sports and any kind of like career. Like, it becomes who you are. Like, oh, I'm Christy and I play soccer. And then when you like retire after college, like, who who am I? You don't know who you are, or what you like, because you're just in the zone. You're just good at it or something for so long. I mean, I had that with baseball until I found fitness. And a lot of people don't belong to anything. They don't have a group. They don't have a community, and they don't have an identity, really. They don't know who they are. And they find a group of people that, that are about this, like, you're overweight, like be a proud, big, you're beautiful the way you are. Just because you're big, you don't have to, they pick an enemy. That's like what a cult does. They pick an enemy. They pick like someone to argue against, because then it keeps people engaged. And then they have these like mantras. They make up these terms, health at every size. They make up these phrases like body or plus sized, and all these different phrases that are vague, that don't mean anything. That's literally how a cult is formed. And they had this Curvy Con in New York City, like all these different things are sprouting up out of nowhere that are completely made up, and it gives people an identity. Now, my concern with all of that is not only is it obviously, like we discussed, it's glorifying and promoting it, hands down. You could say whatever you want. It's about beautiful. No, you're glorifying people that are a part of that movement. Now they're not going to lose weight, because now they're going to be, if they lose weight, then they're going to be ostracized, because those groups are very exclusionary. They seem welcoming, but they're actually exclusionary. And they're not going to want to leave that group. They're going to want to either get bigger or stay the same. They're not going to want to change, because those are their friends. They're part of the fat acceptance movement. They're part of health at every size, and that's what they believe in. So they just become that identity, and they're going to get sick. Like it's so new. Like in terms of like the last like 3 years or so, where we really started hearing about it on social media and everything. Like, where do you think, I mean, this is just general, obviously conversation, prediction, and just where do you think this goes like in 10 or 20 years? Because a lot of these people are in their 30s, in their 40s, and you add on 10 or 20 years of going down the same path. It doesn't get easier to lose weight. It doesn't get easier to reverse these things. I mean, if you didn't take care of your health concerns, what if you waited 5 years? It might have been irreversible. You might not have been able to, fix your situation. So, like, I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, just because it's kind of obvious to see, but people are living now and they think it's okay, but this is not going to turn out well.
Well, I think like the I don't know, like your headliners that are, all over social media about it. You have, what is it? You have Tess Holliday, Amberlynn Reed. I've seen a lot of people talking about her. I don't follow any of them, but that's the names I've seen thrown out there on different podcasts and things. And they're all relatively young, right? I'm guessing 30 or under, or right around their 30s. They're not very old right now. So the older they get, they're going to look, I mean, even if they are pretty in the face, they're not going to continue to be pretty in the face. They're going to get wrinkles. They're going to look older. You know what I mean? So then they're going to lose their following. But one of the ones in the spotlight, they're going to die, and it's going to be like, oh, well, what happened to her? Well, she was 600 pounds. Her body couldn't handle it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen is you're going to see this, healthy at every size, healthy at every size. It's going to be this huge thing until some of your big headliners start.
That's why I think it's going to be like, it's going to have to take that. And that's the problem. It's like, part of me is like, that's what needs to happen. But it's like, I don't want that to happen. That's the whole point of arguing. Like, I don't want Tess Holliday to drop dead. Like, I mean, I don't think anyone does. Oh, I'm sure people are freaking psychopaths out there, but that's the whole point of doing this. And I see people in the comments, and it's actually, and this is a kind of like language, and this is the kind of discussion, because you could say the same thing. Well, there, and rightfully so, there are fit expos everywhere. Oh, fitness, this. I mean, I don't like those fit expos either. I think that's just equally as unhealthy, just the other end of the spectrum, all the supplements and this fat burners and people that are taking exorbitant amounts of anabolics and stuff like that.
Yeah, so, I live not far from Columbus, Ohio. So
the Arnold and stuff. Oh yeah. You go to Walmart and just see like people with like carts of chicken pushing around. You're like, where the hell are these people going? But I mean, it's at least if you're doing like a curvy con, like you're not trying to do that. It doesn't take effort. It's just, It's like, hey, I'm curvy. It's like, now I'm awesome. It's like, you didn't earn that. What, you just ate? You just literally, stuffed your face. But they're also, And this is a kind of like a gray area because people are overweight. And I think people are always going to be overweight. Then you have this gray area where you have all these companies now because it's getting so popular. I mean, it's popular to be overweight. It's popular to be plus size. It's popular not to change. It's popular just to love everyone and accept everyone. It's like, okay, I love and accept people, but you got to challenge yourself, like, you know, live to some potential, have a goal, have some aspirations, like pursue some passion. Like if you end up being a little bit overweight, it's like, okay, but I mean, you realize that if you die, you can't play chess or paint or, you know, do things that you might enjoy besides eating. What are your thoughts about companies that are making specifically like plus size activewear, or they're making beds for big people? Like they're catering to that. Now, my take is like, of course, okay, they're big people. You should cater to that, but like you can go too far, you start catering, and then it's like, then there's no incentive to reverse this issue because it does stress the society. It does stress taxes in the medical system. It is really pushing us in a terrible direction. So what are your thoughts on like and this is pure opinion, of course, or just, I mean, maybe the first time that, if you thought about this, where do you stand on that, or your thoughts about it? Because we have to provide things for people to reverse it, but at the same time, it's almost encouraging and allowing people to not change, or to give them incentive to improve their situation.
As far as like say plus size workout clothing, I don't think that's a bad thing, because I know when I first started going to my trainer, I was still probably in a 1X, 2X.
I agree completely with that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you know, you're nervous going into a gym anyways, being overweight. And so you want to have something that fits you decently. And I get that. Do I think they should continue making, you know, size 8X, 10X, whatever size they make? I mean, at some point, I think you have to say, okay, if you're that large, then, you know, we can't help you. You're going to, you know, I don't know, maybe. But the workout stuff, I say that I can see. Everything else, honestly, I mean, I remember sitting in those bag chairs, like you take the ball games, you know what I mean? Like
right,
those
yep.
crazy little stupid camping chairs that don't hold a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And I couldn't sit in those, and I knew it. I mean, so I would always sit on a log or a stump, or I'd sit on the ground if I could have something nearby to push myself up off of. So I was never in the thought that somebody should cater to me for that. So, I mean, I guess, do I think people should do that? No, I don't think that's not helping the cause any, but I know why they do it, because they're going to make money off of it. But, you know, if somebody at the same token can say, well, I can't afford to be healthy. I can't afford to buy healthy food. I can't afford a gym membership. I can't afford a trainer, whatever their deal is. Well, then how can you afford to pay 5 times as much for a bed that's twice as big? You know, like there's just so much justification that goes on. And so I would be of the opinion of, if your ass can't fit into something, then you just don't get it.
It's tough, because then people are going to say, of course, now then they're being excluded, and they're being, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they're paying more for clothes, even though it's more material. So it costs more to make. And then they don't want, you know, taxes or extra expensive clothes and specialty things that makes it more uncomfortable, where the idea might be like, well, then they need to lose weight and do something about it. So, I mean, there's always going to be a company or some kind of business or specialty things that could be made or will be made. So it's kind of an open-ended question, but it serves a need, right? A business serves a need. And if someone needs a bigger bed, there's going to be a company that makes big beds. Go ahead.
I mean, I guess if it's something for your home, you know, where you live day to day, you need a bigger bed, you need a bigger chair, you need a bigger something. Okay, you're going to have a company that makes that, but that's not something that's going to be everywhere you go. I certainly do not think that airlines, amusement parks, restaurants, any place like that should cater to somebody that's 500 or 600 pounds, because, I mean, unless that person is at their place 3 and 4 times a day, enough to help cover their costs of what they're increasing, you know what I mean? I just don't think you should be catered to. I mean, now that I'm thinner and healthier, I mean, I'm still not catered to at certain places that I go. You know what I mean? Like, I have to wear contact lenses, and sometimes, you know, certain things just irritate my contacts. But can I bitch about that and have the place I'm at change their fluorescent lighting or something? No,
you could certainly bitch about that. You can start a hashtag in 2 seconds with that, I'm sure. Hashtag like eye acceptance.
Yeah, see what I mean? But I mean, like, but why do that? Like,
Right.
that's dumb to me. Like if you have the ability to change your situation, then you change your situation. It's not the next person changes theirs to suit you. I mean, that's just the way my thought is on most anything like that, except for the workout clothes, because I do like workout clothes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where the major issue stems from. It's not that people want to promote people that make similar content or take the same approach. It's not popular to talk out against these things because everyone gets fired or everyone gets, called someone who's trying to call for hate or to be, angry about it. It's like, well, I don't want people to die unnecessarily. I mean, the whole system is essentially broken. We're pumping out tons of garbage foods and we're keeping people in place. We're keeping people in cubicles. We're driving everywhere. We're sedentary. Like there's so many opportunities, but there isn't a lot of education on doing your own thing because that's just not what this country started with. This country started with, education to work in a job, boom, like kind of like a cycle, boom, 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 white picket fence, and that whole kind of cycle, like rinse, wash, repeat. But now there's just so much opportunity to get quality information, and the culture crossover, like a Venn diagram with health, that's where these groups thrive. And it's one thing to have a belief, a subjective belief, but when you cross that over and then defend it as if it's true across all aspects, then it's like, whoa, you can't come into the health realm and the nutrition and like the actual fitness realm saying the same thing that you're talking about with like social standards. Like it's the same thing as having the right to vote or equal pay or this. It's like equal opportunity is fine, but equal outcome, that's absurd.
Right.
Some people are going to be better at certain things, and some people are going to be able to build more muscle. Some people are going to be able to lose more weight. Some people are going to have longer hair, shorter hair, a higher jump. They're going to make better chairs. I mean, everyone's going to be a little bit different. And that's where I feel like the problem lies, is that crossover between social acceptance. And then it's like, well, don't move on that because you're affecting people's health. There are a lot of other movements that don't affect people's health. The right to vote doesn't affect someone's health. I mean, I guess it could if you're talking about voting on health related issues, but you know what I mean? It's like it has other effects that has nothing to do with subjective opinion.
Yeah, and we live in an age of, and I guess it kind of started in the mid to late '90s. I guess I'm not sure. I was already out of school by then, but my granddaughter came home one day after her softball game. She's 5, and she was like, "Grandma, we lost our game, but we still got ice cream anyways." And I'm like, when I was your age, if we would have lost the game, we'd have got our asses beat, and we'd have had to go home and go to bed. Like, you. I'm not that that's the right thing, but you know what I mean. Like the age of everybody gets a trophy, everybody, no matter what, it started back, several years back, 20 years ago, whatever, and it's just gotten worse and worse. And it moved from when I used to see it all the time into sports and stuff, and then it moved into every other aspect. So now it's like everybody just wants a trophy. Everybody just wants to be, no matter what, they want to be validated regardless of how it affects anybody else. They don't care about your feelings as long as they feel good about it. And that just annoys me. I can't, like I'm not. I mean, I'm kind of like the type of person who, I mean, I say what I want to say. I don't care. I mean, I have family members who don't talk to me because I tell it like it is to them. I have friends that don't talk to me for the same reason because they know that they're going to get the truth from me no matter what. Um, but my dog is sneezing. I don't know if
That's
you can
fine.
hear me like sneezing over there. Um, but I just don't like that. Like I'm never mean to somebody. Like I would never push my opinions off on you. If you ask for my opinion, I'll give it to you. If we're in a situation together and and I feel that it's valid for me to come at you with something that I feel strongly about, then I will. But I would never assume that my opinion or my feeling is the only one. You know what I mean? Like it has to be that way, or you have to agree with me. Kind of like, and I always think this is funny. You wear the Vibram shoes or whatever.
Hmm.
not a chance in hell. Not doing it. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I love so much of your content, but those shoes, I'm not trying those
A lot of people agree. A lot of people agree with you. A lot of people agree with you.
But
Yeah.
that doesn't, but you can disagree and you can have, these different opinions, and it doesn't mean that you can't still gain something from it. But these extremists, like the fat acceptance people or the healthy at every size or whatever, it's either you listen to what we say and you believe this, or you're nothing. You whatever. We're going to badmouth you. We're going to trash you. And I just in any aspect of life, you can't progress and function like that. So I don't understand why people even want to do it. But I was thinking too about, like you talked earlier, and we were talking about Tess Holliday or Amberlynn Reed. How somebody in high profile would have to die for this whole movement to kind of have a shift. I was thinking to myself too, like, now we just saw Tess Holliday walking down the runway, right, at one of the fashion weeks or something, and I'm sure she felt glamorous. I'm sure she felt awesome about it. But what's going to happen in 5 or 6 years when she's one of the people in my 600-pound life that has to lay in bed naked and get rolled over with a towel, and we see that instead? You know what I mean? Like, are they not thinking this far ahead? I mean, are her followers, the people that defend her to no end, going to be the ones taking care of her?
I don't think
No.
people are. I think that's one of the things with social media. I don't think anyone's really thinking. Things are changing so fast that I don't think people have people don't have time to think ahead. People just react and say things online. I say things online. I say things all the time. And when you're talking all the time, like I'm like literally, I'm getting tired of. I'm sure everyone watching, you're getting tired of hearing me talk. No, but you say a lot of things and you extrapolate your opinions, but you say a lot of stuff. You're going to say things wrong. You're going to say things are just going to come out. It happens, but now things are recorded and everyone gets to hear it. So of course you can have an opinion. Just because I might rant on fat acceptance and body positivity, looks like mine. Just because I rant on it doesn't mean you have to change your opinion on it. And I think it's the ability, it's the freedom of speech, which is important. We're just inundated with so much freedom of speech. You used to have to go somewhere to hear someone talk. Now you can just go on your phone, you hear everyone talk, and it sounds like everyone's just arguing. And people are voicing their opinions. You just don't have to listen to them. Like, you don't have to listen to it. You don't want to listen to this. You don't listen, and change the channel. There's a lot of stuff. There are a lot of people saying a lot of things, and people misrepresent facts all the time. And people put too much stock in a lot of things that we think we know. Human beings tend to have a massive ego and think that we know everything. And I certainly don't know everything. And a lot of facts are proven wrong. A lot of studies are proven wrong. And a lot of things that don't have any studies are proven right, or there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that shows that this is fine too. So a lot of it comes down to experience and being able to vet things for yourself and be able to understand what is bullshit, what's someone's opinion, which you would think would be a pretty common functioning, like fundamental human capacity, but it isn't. Most people don't understand what the difference between entertainment, what the difference between opinion, and what the difference is between an intellectual discussion, like representing like scientific studies at like a university, at like a PhD dissertation. And people just lump everything together and just believe and react to everything that they see. And it's a shame when you have, pardon my French, but fucktards that show up and think that they know shit and that you don't. And the more humility that you have, you can still voice your opinions and voice them aggressively. And I will do that. And you might do that yourself because you said so. That's like the way you roll, and that's fine. However, there are certain things that we can objectively see that is not a proper direction. And plus, if you read your history, there are a lot of these types of movements that really go down a dark freaking path. And most people, the reason why history repeats themselves is because people don't fucking read and pay attention and learn. And they don't understand how history comes around, and it's coming around again. And that's why you have some small, loud voices that talk out against these types of movements and blah, blah. And everyone's like, you're just being mean. It's like, okay, let it go. Keep on letting it roll. And this is kind of like where it's gone with Instagram. And I made a video today and yesterday, talked about it. I'm curious as to what you thought because of your massive weight loss, that they're blocking. They're going to stop the ads to under 18 when it comes to these fantastical weight loss diet pills, powders, creams, whatever it is. Those things are like, maybe rapid transformation, rapid weight loss. So if you're under 18, you're not going to see those ads anymore, which is great. Like the fit teas, detox teas, I think they're bullshit. However, like the language and the ability for all ages to report, like they're going to make buttons and make it easier to report, which I think is fine. However, it also is trying to create more of a like safe space. There's some language that is kind of being thrown around a little bit that has some more intonations and more potential drawbacks and, let's say leg sweeps in the future that people don't see up front. You think like, oh, cool, it's protecting us. It's like, well, it starts out that way and then it becomes more censorship and then blocking things and then a lot of positive weight loss stories. Then it becomes you can't post transformation pictures. Like your pictures are inspiring. I'll bring them up on the screen again. Like it's inspiring and it's not something to like if you post that your picture on the left and the picture on the right, and let's say I did a thing where I'm like, check out Swolenormous X. And let's say that was the beginning. Let's say you did join Swolenormous X in that pink picture. And I know that's not the case, just for clarification, but let's say, wow, join this and start this program and start eating better, try an elimination diet and lose weight. Check out Christy. Let's say that was real. Let's say you were doing what we do in X for that whole time period, but people would block that. That would be flagged. That'd be, look at that, it's bullshit. That's rap. That's a load of crap. So a lot of things that can inspire people. And I think a lot of people do start training because of transformation pictures, because of these amazing stories. Those are going to get lumped in with a lot of these bullshit, lose all this weight, X, Y, and Z, because most people don't understand how to discern and how to filter out the differences between the two. I mean, if you're buying detox teas and those types of things, it's like, it's kind of like snake oil. It's kind of like joke's on you. You actually why would you do that? Human beings have a choice. We have a choice as a consumer. So if you take away that choice, I don't think it should be targeted towards kids. And I don't think those things work. And I don't think that they should have ads, but I'm just thinking from a conceptual standpoint. Like, what's your take on that type of approach or that recent news break, like over the course of the next couple months, they're going to start rolling that out?
I do think that, well, first of all, I think, it's all bogus and it would be great if you didn't have to see another ad pop up in your feed for some random shit like that. But targeting to only under 18 really doesn't make any, it's good that kids aren't seeing this in their face. You're going to have a Kardashian promoting something and, your kid likes it and they look up to them or something. But the kids who are underage, their parents are buying this for them. I don't know very many 14, 15, 16-year-olds that have jobs enough going to pay for the prices of these detox teas. If you ever see, they're like, oh, $60 for this bag. And it's like, really? So their parents are the ones paying for it anyway. So whether or not they see it on their Instagram, the parents will see it. The kids will ask for it. They'll Google something. They'll see it on YouTube. They'll see it on Facebook. They'll see it wherever. I guess they're going to, Instagram and Facebook are the same company, so they might block it on Facebook too. But I do agree with it being sort of a rabbit hole of a domino effect where, well, if you're taking out stuff like this, then we don't want to advertise your program, Swolenormous X. We don't want to see sponsorships from that because that's not a good thing. We don't want to promote that because that's making somebody feel bad about themselves. I can see that being a very quick, progression. I think they would be better served probably to just, if the celebrities would stop promoting this shit, you know what I mean? Because Good. You're not going to have somebody want to buy something from Wendy Smith down the street. They're buying it because a Kardashian is promoting it, or Jennifer Lopez is promoting it when she did that crazy diet a couple months ago and everybody was talking about it, or Beyonce.
When she just didn't eat carbs for a week or something, or 10 days. I think I made a video on that.
It was some weird restrictive diet she did to do something. And Beyonce did something similar for Coachella or something. And I'm like, if these celebrities would stop promoting this, then you would really see this fall off a lot, I think, without having to restrict it and ban it. And because the kids aren't going to pay attention to what I promote or, what you promote necessarily. Adults would, what you promote. But I think that it's a slippery slope. It'd be interesting to see where it goes, because I can certainly see that things like, there's a guy I follow on Instagram, Ben Carpenter, and he posts a lot of like scientific stuff. Like he just like stuff that I can't understand. But I mean, then it'll start with people who are really putting facts out there. Well, we can't promote that. We can't let that be seen either because that study may not show this, but maybe another one did. So we can't promote that. I mean, it's just it's hard to say where it'll end up, and I don't think that it's good for kids to see the stuff, but I'm not a big fan of censorship at all in any way, and I think the easiest way to have it not happen is to not promote it. Somebody needs to take a stand and say, okay, I would rather not get this $50,000 from this company to put on my Instagram post and
Well, when you're only doing things for money, then that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to like, oh, I want the biggest celebrity to do this. We'll pay you. It's like, I'm not talking about that. It's like 100 grand. It's like, nah, no thanks. What, 10 million? Yeah, here's my address. It's like, I just got to make a post about it. Sure. And then of course they sell $20 million worth of product, whatever it is. I mean, that's common when you're doing it for the wrong, it's not even the wrong reason. That's subjective. I mean, doing it for the money could be the right reason for you. And if that makes you happy, but I think it just kind of, the more I think about it, the more it just fundamentally seems like it stems from people just not being happy with themselves. And then they lash out or they don't have proper intent. And you can't get that from one person's video or a video from, or one video from one person. Like you can't just get the whole picture. I mean, can you critique? Can you criticize? Can you respond? Sure. But it's one thing to say that you are a shitty person and you don't know the person, especially when it's online. So what I find interesting that continues to happen are how sensitive people are. It's obviously it's getting worse and worse, and maybe it was always this way, but I don't think so. I don't think people were that sensitive. Like, 20 years ago, it didn't seem like everyone got offended by every last thing. And because on social media, you have everything's just digital, that there's no physical existence of it. It's just kind of like in the air as far as anyone, quantifies, except for like the experts. Then you have just a lot of people slinging words, but you're taught that sticks and stones, words can't hurt me, but that's all that delineates what someone's career is about, what happens with someone, if they get fired, if they get, if they're looked at as like an evil person, is just like a couple of words, and they just get thrown around so quickly. And words do have meaning, but only if you give them meaning and give them power. And then everyone's trying to grasp every different combination of words to make it theirs and to like, trademark them. And like, these are my words. This means this. And no, now this means this. It's just, there's too many people. There's too much stuff. There's too many like voices. There are 7 billion people, fine. But then to hear them all the time, it's like, whoa, like it was cool when you're on the other side of the world. But now when it's like on my phone, I don't need that. Like, do you follow a lot of people? Like, how do you manage that bullshit? Because you got a lot of people that watch me or watch other things. And I'm not with the illusion. I mean, if you're watching my content, you're watching probably 50 people's content. You're listening to a bunch of podcasts. You're watching a bunch of YouTube videos. Like, how do you filter out like how much exposure you have to the internet? And obviously you and I, we both remember when there wasn't one. So we have a little bit more context. So a lot of people that never experienced that or barely experienced that, it's not going to feel the same way. They're not going to be able to do the same kind of unplug. But how do you handle it? Because if you're just on it all the time and listening to all this stuff, it will drive you fucking insane. You won't get anything done.
Well, what I do is, like it's funny on Facebook. I mean, most everybody on Facebook is either, family or people I know in real life. Very few people I accept as a friend if I haven't had some sort of an interaction with them. I have accepted a few members of the Swolenormous Facebook group as friends because we've chatted a lot about this, the stuff and that we, that get put in the group. But I go in and I unfollow people. You're still their friend. You can still go to their page. If you want to see what your aunt is doing, you can go to her page if you want. You haven't, blocked her or anything, but you don't see anything she posts. And I have done that with every single family member I have. I'm not kidding you. Like, It's ridiculous. My feed is so short because I just don't see a lot of the stuff I don't want to see. And the same with Instagram. I have two accounts. My bigger account is a photography account, and I follow more people there, maybe a couple of hundred, but it's all photography related things. But I have a lot of that muted also, where the story and posts are muted. So unless I want to specifically go to their account, and then my other Instagram that I follow you with, the more fitnessy one, I don't follow very many people at all. But the same goes for that; they're all muted. I mean, I could go all day long and see two updates. So, and on YouTube, I have three subscriptions: the Swolenormous channel, the Daily Swole channel, and a photography guy. So I don't really, I'm not bombarded on YouTube. I go there specifically for what I want to look for.
That's the best. That's the best way to do with most things. That way, you're not subjected to just everything. And a lot of people, and we do this once in a while, obviously on the podcast. Like the reason why I don't follow many people is because I don't care what most people do. If you want to look, then you go and you search for it. You don't need to be subjected to every time you open up your feed. Like, here's what your 1,000 people are. Like, I don't have 1,000 friends. I might have literally 4 or 5. I really don't surround myself with a lot of people because I just don't have a lot of time. And there aren't a lot of people that I really want to spend time with aside from family and some close friends. And I think if people value their time more and their brain space and their brain health and their mental health, a lot of the other things make a lot more sense. I mean, what inspires me about your story specifically is how you talked about the mental aspect from the beginning. You talked about how there was no other option. That's how I work. This is just something that I wanted to do. And if I want to do it, then I did it. It just seems like you had the psychological mindset for your weight loss and for where you wanted to go, locked down. And not everyone is wired that way. Not everyone understands that is where everything comes from. It's not what diet you choose. It's not necessarily what you eliminate. It doesn't matter if you choose one of those set diet plans or diet approaches. It's more about your willingness to do what it takes. And like you said, when I think I was asking about how did you know to not pay attention to the scale as much and understand composition, you were saying you Googled it. Mm-hmm. That seems like to be the most elusive answer to every question. People just don't look things up. And then it's like, well, I looked it up. I get so many responses. You look up, what Google will show you is the majority of what anyone in the world wants to find. And of course, it might leave out some alternative viewpoints. But if you want to know what anyone's generally going to answer or should answer for a question, Google's going to tell you because other hundreds and millions and billions of people are, they're filtering those algorithms to show you what you probably want to know about. So you look it up and then you try it and you use your better judgment. If it says, oh, if you want to lose weight, you should climb a tree 10 times a day. You're like, that sounds ridiculous. Could it work? It probably could. But you're like, that's a load of crap. Like the tree climbing workout, that's probably a thing. And, so you skip that and then you go to the next one. It's like a lot of these things are just very basic. We're not recreating exercises. We don't need more exercise equipment. We don't need more machines. We're always trying to tweak and make it better. But the human body is the same as it is now as it was 100 years ago. So the exercise we have with the weights we have and things there's more than enough. You don't need anything new. Oh, you definitely don't need it to get healthy and to get where you want to go.
Well, I know when I had my trainer, I met him. Well, the gym is closed now. I live in a small town in a small county. But I went to a gym with him. So I did some free weight stuff, but a lot of the stuff we did was on machine. So then once I started on my own, I kind of built up my home gym. And I am not kidding you when I say that every single exercise I do, other than leg extension and a pro leg curl, because I have a bench that does that and a machine that will allow me to do the leg extension, everything else is free weight. It's basic. It's, dumbbell curls. It's, back squats. It's your typical stuff that people have been doing for years. I'm not doing these crazy running on the treadmill, doing military presses, spinning in circles that you see. I'm like, why would you do that? I've learned a lot. I know you said earlier that, my before and after pictures, I did not lose all the weight since I found Swolenormous, which is true. But I will tell you that since doing the elimination diet in May and June until now, probably 12 pounds lost, and a couple of, one whole size, maybe a size and a half, but it was due to what I found that I couldn't eat. I'm not bloated anymore, and it's allowed my body to be leaner. You know what I mean? Like not so much. So I mean, it's not that I did not get my whole transformation through Swolenormous, but it's regardless of what stage you're at in your transformation, you're going to gain from the information on the website for sure.
But I feel like the elimination, because I didn't create the elimination diet. That's like
Oh,
I didn't create it. Like I literally never say like, oh, this is my thing. You know, there might be some subtle tweaks as to like what I prefer personally. But whenever I was working with clients and helping people lose weight, you know, it's such a struggle to get people to be very meticulous with their daily life. Now, I make this clear and we discuss this. Some people love to measure. Some people love to plug in numbers. Some people they're very like arithmetic. They just they're accountants in their brain. They like to see the pie chart fill up when they're hitting their macros, like to see the number. They like to add something and be like, wow, 1800, I did it. It's like the gamification of it, which is cool. Some people really like and stick to it. But, you know, I did that. I used to weigh and be like, so I get an idea like, okay, I'm eating enough food. Okay, I'm eating this amount of food is about, let's say 3,000 calories. Cool. But then after that, after a while, I fell out of it because it's not something that I'm not doing it to step on stage. I don't want to get to be like, okay, 13% or 12%. Like, I just don't care. If I can see like, okay, cool. Like I'm happy with that. If I want to see my abs a little bit more, if I want to get a little bit leaner, then I don't know, eat half a less sweet potato for a while and it'll be fine, or eat a less food, or, you know, it's not that hard after you practice it. But, I forget where I was going with that. I started looking at some of the comments. I want to see if anyone had any questions, but, was talking about, what was I saying? I just completely trailed off. I went 3 thoughts ahead.
or you were talking about how you didn't, invent the elimination diet, but I
Oh, no,
honestly hadn't
that's it.
heard of it, even in all my Googling about nutrition and what's good, until I come across your podcast. I was like, an elimination diet. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
That
And
was
what I found was very
that
accurate
was
cut
it.
out.
That was it because it seems like that's where I wanted to come back around with it. The elimination diet just seems always to be the best approach for anyone, and it will lead you. If it leads you to being a vegan, then guess what? It leads you to being a vegan, and you're going to do it right. You're going to do it the best that you can, and if that's where it leads you, then you're going to be happy and you're going to be able to stick to it. If you're consistent with something, you're going to be able to stick to it. If you're consistent and you're able to stick to it easily without thinking too hard about it, you enjoy it. It's like that's a bonus. So you can find something that works for you, because if it works for you, like you're going to want to do it. You're going to feel great. You're going to get great results. You're going to have that like natural adherence to it. Like if you look in the mirror and you're, wow, I feel great, or I feel stronger, I have so much energy. Most people don't naturally want to be like, nah, I want to feel like crap again. It's
Right.
more like you want more, and you kind of get that like addicted taste to, you get addicted to the progress. Like, ooh, now, oh, that felt great. I got rid of, let's say, dairy, for example. That's common. A lot of people have issues with certain types of dairy, or dairy completely, whatever it is. So they cut it out. And I never thought I would feel so amazing. I never thought I would feel this great. Well, what happens if I took this out? Let me see how this reacts. And then it's just literally you're your own science experiment, but you are. And rather than have someone tell you, oh, you should eat this, have 1 cup of this, have one, like, how the hell do you know? You don't know anything about me. And I come back and I'll say, look, well, you don't know anything. Like, you don't know anything about you. If I was the other person, because I don't like telling people what to eat. I feel like that's negligent unless you're actually, even for most registered dietitians and nutritionists, like most people shouldn't really be running their mouths about what, here, you should eat this amount, unless you're like, you know, you do, you know, massive obesity or severe eating disorder, and that's like your thing. Then I'm sure there's protocols and things that are more successful than others, and methodologies and things like that. But if you are like invested in yourself, like you customize your nutrition. People just don't want to put in that kind of work, and it doesn't take that long. It's literally just observing. Just people don't want to, they don't want to not eat that treat. They don't want to give up their cookie for a month. They don't like it. Then you don't really care. It kind of comes down to whether or not you want it, right?
Yeah, I think, well, like I had said before, when I did it, I had already, eaten such a a healthier type of diet anyways, that I cut out. The only thing I had to cut out was dairy. I cut out legumes, nuts, nut butters, all that kind of stuff. And what I found was dairy, even though I'm not lactose intolerant at all, was the big culprit. I ended up having some dairy later on at dinner one night, and 2 days later thought I was going to die. And I was like, oh, that's bad. So my bloating has been gone, and I'm not eating legumes since, because I don't care if I eat like beans, pinto beans, that kind of stuff. I don't care. And I don't eat a lot of bread just because I'm not a big bread eater, that type of thing, or pastas. And so it's easier for me to not eat certain things than maybe somebody else. And I can see how it would be very difficult for somebody. I've seen people in the Facebook group that are starting the elimination diet, or restarting it, and they're nervous about it, or they're struggling a little bit with what they should eat or can't eat, or what if this or what if that. And I can totally understand why somebody who had not had any sort of restriction at all is jumping into it, how they would be very nervous about it. But it's totally worth it. I mean, I never in my life would have figured that the Greek yogurt I eat every day for snack at work was causing me so much problem, because it's supposed to be good for you.
But do you miss the Greek yogurt? Because a lot of times when I talk to people about that, it's like, well, the food, if you realize all of a sudden now you eat that and you feel terrible, your mind like associates that, like, no, you don't like that anymore. Like, you don't look at that like, ooh, I love it. You might remember, I remember that feeling of enjoyment, but you don't associate it with what now makes you feel bad, if you have that kind of a reaction.
Right. I miss the convenience of it, because, a little container of Fage yogurt and there you go. But because I know what it's going to do to me, I would rather be able to stand up and not have my bloated belly hanging over top of my pants than, I'd rather be comfortable all day. So I think it's true. Once you realize that something affects you that way, I think you can manage to do without it, And luckily for me, it wasn't, I never drank milk anyway. So it's not like I had to give up milk, or I didn't eat much cheese, that kind of stuff. So I wasn't a big dairy eater, but I would eat the hell out of yogurt all the time. And that seemed to be that. So, some people who may have to end up giving up something that they really, I couldn't imagine if somebody found out that they were, like, I have a friend that has Crohn's disease, and one of her trigger foods is red meat. And she knows this. And if she eats it, it'll trigger some of her symptoms, her, the bowel symptoms or whatever. And, but she knows this, but still every once in a blue moon, she has a steak, because she's like, I just gotta have it. But once you know that, you just adjust to it.
But that's you taking response. So for her, if she eats meat, she's not gonna be like, well, why is this happening to me?
Right. If she knows full well.
Then she's an adult that makes a decision, and you might not agree with it, but it's still her life and her decision. But if you have that information, and that's where I think it's the most powerful, because if you want to have a cheat meal, it's like, okay, well, if you know that whatever that is, let's say you're going to, whatever it is, and you know that it's going to cause you problems, it's like, literally but you can make the best decision possible for you. If you know that it's going to do X, Y, and Z, and you're okay with it, and whatever consequences that you can't feel that are going inside your body, and who knows, right? It's like, that's your choice, but at least you know what's going to happen. When you're just going around assuming that everything in the world, whether it's in a plastic bag, whether it's in a cardboard box, I mean, people just put anything in their mouth. And some of the content I've done recently on those sandwiches, that donut chicken sandwich and stuff like that. But the fact that they released it in states where they were not required by the law to list the nutritional information.
That was shady as fuck.
Anyone curious as to why? Can you imagine, like, hey, this is 2,000 calories. Everyone's like, oh, if you add this up, it's about 1,000. It's probably 1,500, depending on how much glaze you put on, or how big the donuts, or how much the fry. I mean, no one would be like, oh my God, that would be the headline. So conveniently, they released it in those days. Yeah.
I think you said it in when it was a video or a podcast, you talked about it, maybe both.
Yeah.
You said nobody's going to go in and order just the chicken on 2 donuts. They're going to get bacon on it. They're going to add some extra sauce. They're going to add, of course they are. I mean, you can't just be gluttonous. You got to be super gluttonous, Or
you're going to have a drink. You're not bringing in your own water or something like that.
Yeah, you're going to have like a double order of what do they have there, like potato wedges or something? Oh gosh, yeah, I saw that and I was just like, I can't, even when I was 300 pounds, I probably would never have even thought that sounded good to eat.
Yeah. And of course, you're not going to eat it like even if you went and had it now or I went and had it now. It's like I'm going to go and have it and all of a sudden I'm going to look completely different tomorrow. I'm going to feel.
You're gonna feel like
maybe
crap.
I feel like crap and maybe who knows? Maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe like, wow, I felt like crap when I ate it or whatever, but then I didn't feel bad after. It doesn't mean I should be, oh, that means it's okay. I didn't have, raging diarrhea. I didn't throw up everywhere. So that means it's okay. I think we just pound our bodies with, I don't know. It just doesn't take any effort to eat those things. And our bodies are so programmed through evolution to search for food, to be hungry and to be sensitive to where sugar might be and where these things are, like hyper aware. And since we have so much around it, that evolutionary signal is just like always satisfied. It's always going. It's like find food, find food, find food. 1,000 years ago, that was the worry. Every day you're like, what are we eating? I have to go hunt it. I have to go, get it in the field from the crops and stuff. Yeah, it was always on your mind because you had to hunt and gather it. Now, even probably more than 1,000 years ago, think about what was going on. But that's depends on where you are in history. But it's like you're always looking. That's like your meal. That's survival. Where are you sleeping? Where are you eating? And it's now you don't have to. Now it's just like, what do I want to eat? Let me use my thumb, and it'll be delivered in 20 minutes. And it'll be concentrated calories. And it's, that's personal preference. If you want to eat those foods, if you want to call them unhealthy, everything's a chemical. I mean, I've heard there's so many different ways you can split this up if you're making content or if you're watching it. Some people will say, because it's true, that everything's a chemical. Oh, that's chemicals and it's processed. Well, everything's processed because you're eating it. I mean, it's processed in some way. It's like, okay, if you're using the definition of process, what does that mean? And everything's a chemical because everything is chemicals. Like if you break it down to its simplest, all right, so everything's a chemical. This microphone's a chemical. It's like, okay. So it depends on how many nuances and who you're talking to, because you can always use semantics against the person for an argument. And then you can throw around scientific studies. Okay. But then you have to understand how to read them. You have to understand how they're being funded, the sample size of population. What kind of analysis was it? What are the other variables? Most people don't know how to extrapolate that. And the reason why we have these debates now is literally because the top scientists still are debating it. They're still discussing what's the best thing for people. What we know from the evidence of us getting sicker and sicker and more overweight is that eating too much gets you fucking fat. So if you keep on eating too much, you're going to get fat, obese, and have a lot of problems. So if we all can agree on that, do the details matter as much? They don't. And as much as I make content, it's like, then don't listen to it. Just stop eating so much. Oh, but that's mean. You can't just tell someone. Of course. Yeah, of course you can. Like if you think that's like what it actually means, like stop eating, problem solved. Yeah, things are addictive. You need a strong support system. You need a strong community. There's always nuance and you can't get that across in any one piece of content. And everyone's individual situation is going to be different. Just people love to voice their opinions. Mine as well, and it's like everyone has the ability to do so. So there's a lot of people that seemingly have opposing views and opposing arguments when it's just like, let's focus on the basics. What gets someone healthy? I just honestly think that the elimination diet is just the most neutral. I don't think there's any, maybe there's a better approach. I don't think so. It's like, why don't you just do that and then do whatever you want? Like start there, start from the source. And then if you want to end up eating fast food after that, whatever, then go do it. But at least you understand how foods react in your body and how you feel when you're on them. And people don't understand how food that they eat is literally how they feel, is literally how your brain functions, is how you sleep, is how your skin looks, is how, all those different things.
Well, what I really like too about the elimination diet and the way that it's approached is you're not eliminating any particular macro out of your diet to
Right.
do it. You're just eliminating certain foods that are probably not as good for you. So you don't have, I know when I did Atkins that I mentioned earlier, I lost like 20 pounds in 2 months, oh, that's amazing. But I also started losing my hair, like in the shower.
Oh shit.
Lumps started coming out. And I was like, ooh, this can't be good.
Well, for those
I'm
people
all
that
about trying to get 80s big hair
but for those for those people that don't know Atkins, like what were you doing?
Well, the way it was structured, now I think they've changed
Yeah,
the structure since.
yeah, I'm sure they have.
But you went. I think the first 2 or 3 weeks you ate no carbs whatsoever at all. It was a full fat, full protein
Like
basically
no
diet.
fiber and stuff too, or
Yeah, no veggies, no carbs,
oh
no
yeah.
anything. So basically,
Mm.
like they would tell you, oh, eat pepperoni and cheese for lunch, eat pork rinds for a snack, eat. I mean, it was a lot and a lot of processed food you ate because you're not going to find that much unprocessed, you know, type of stuff unless you're only eating cheese and chicken or something, you know. So you did that for 2 or 3 weeks, and then you were supposed to slowly reintroduce carbs. You know, like maybe you had like 10 or 15 grams one week, and then you slowly introduced it until supposedly you would continue to lose weight and you'd eventually maintain. That was the whole goal of it, I guess. Well, after doing the first, initial 2 or 3 week thing of no carbs, that's when my hair loss started. And then even adding carbs back in, like I lost hair for 3 months, and I still have a spot in the back that never fully recovered. And I mean, you see how much hair I have, so you can imagine how much I used to have before that happened. And so I think that with the elimination diet, by not everybody reacts well to taking away something out of their diet. Not everybody, I mean, I didn't at all. So that's why when I heard, keto became such a fad, I was like, oh my God, it's like the rebirth of Atkins. People are gonna, oh, I hated Atkins. Um, but I think that you still get your carbs, your proteins, your fats, and fats are important in a diet. I don't care what anybody says. And I don't know if you, yeah, I'm sure you've heard this, but I went to like a nutrition seminar one time that my yoga instructor actually had. And so she was talking about how they are calling Alzheimer's, they're what's the word, like loosely labeling it diabetes type 3.
It's not really that.
And,
It's not that loose anymore. It's kind of.
you know,
I don't think it's official, but
but that's what
but
they're gonna call it.
the experts are, yeah, they're finding like real strong correlations with with that and Alzheimer's.
And she was, she's got, I mean, I can't list them all, these PhDs. And the reason she's in Ohio is she came here to get a second PhD in something. But anyway, she was saying that if they were stemming from um, taking so much fat away from your body, that they think that had an effect on the brain. And if, and I started thinking, this is just what my opinion, I'm thinking this on my own. When the whole low fat's bad for you craze started, was what, late 70s, early 80s, and continued to maybe the early 90s, when it was like, all the jazzercise and don't eat fat and everything has to be fat free and
I
all
think it was
this.
like it might have been earlier with the fat. It might have been
It might
earlier, like
have,
the
but
'60s. Yeah, yeah, but that around then,
but
yeah.
if you think about the people today or in the early 2000s, how many cases of Alzheimer's there are,
Oh yeah,
versus how many people may have stopped eating. My grandmother was one of them. She didn't eat fat. Oh God, if it had, no, it had to be non-fat, fat free.
yeah.
So I think that anytime you completely remove any kind of nutrient from your body, unless, you have something wrong with you that your doctor says you can't have any more of this or something, then I don't think it's good for you. And I think that the elimination diet is perfect to figure out what you can eat because you're not restricting yourself from anything. You're not going to deplete yourself of stuff you need to function.
Yeah, it's definitely a risk, especially if you don't know. Like maybe in 10, 20 years, if everyone got their DNA tested, we'd be like, look, if you have this sequence, you should eat more of this because it's less likely to trigger the Alzheimer gene. Let's say we figured that out. That's a whole different ball game. But just to randomly go, because the thing is with that type of discussion right there, you're saying, okay, when they're getting rid of fat, who are the people that are having Alzheimer's? But then they have Alzheimer's, we just kind of push them to the side, like, okay, they got Alzheimer's. But it's hard to almost like point to that because there's so many other variables. Were they smoking? Were they sleeping? Because sleep is directly related to, if you don't get sleep and you're chronically deprived, you're more likely to, develop Alzheimer's and, other age-related issues. So, and there's a lot of people out there that are treating age like a disease. They're reversing, they're doing anti-aging, and they're actually finding ways to slow down aging and maybe stop and reverse it in animals and things like that, and mice and rats and those kinds of tests. But these are just like beginning things. They're really looking at, we don't know much about the brain as a human species. And I think that's where you lose a lot of people in conversations when you talk about surface stuff and you don't really discuss, okay, what do humans actually know? Like we know a lot of things, or we're aware of a lot of things, But there's a reason why there's still a lot of problems because we don't know a lot of things. We're really just kind of, everyone in this world is literally kind of doing stuff on the fly. Like we're finding out like, oh, let's make this law. Let's do this. Oh shit, that's not working. Oh, no, stop that. And it's like, okay, that's moving. That's in motion. Now we have to make this law and then make this. And then people, so it's kind of like everything's been on the fly and it's not like there's a plan that people are following. It's kind of like just one step after the other. That's why, you have all these issues with natural resources and global warming and all these things that people are debating. And it's like, well, some people know and some of the stats, but then you go on one site and it says this and one site says the other. So there's a lot of maybe unnecessary debate. There's a lot of things that are probably much more factual than just, subjective opinion. But it's there's so much noise out there. It's really hard to know where to look and to know who to trust. And because it's so easy to poke holes in something, it's so easy to debate something. It's so easy to have an opposing opinion. It's really like, okay, let's start refocusing on ourselves. Let's start refocusing on the individual. Let's start refocusing on our individual lives. And that's kind of like been my latest shift in my own personal thinking. It's like, well, you can't save everyone. I can't encourage everyone to do the elimination diet, nor should they. Maybe it's not everyone's ideal approach for whatever reason. And not everyone's going to exercise the same way. Not everyone has the same goal. Not everyone cares about like, what can you do? Not everyone's going to be a professional athlete. Not everyone's going to be a fitness, like nut. Not everyone's going to love the ballet. I just throw things out there right now, but it's kind of like giving people the information and making sure that the fundamental information is clear. And it just seems like so many of these companies or so many of these movements or organizations blur those fundamentals. And that's what bothers me the most. Like the high level stuff, it's like your individual specific in your lifestyle. When I post something on Instagram, of course, everyone will take it as like 100%, like this is concrete. I'm like, come on, take it like as like if I make a post like, you can do it, go get him today, fam. Everyone's going to be like, no one's going to, it's boring. It sucks. But if I say, get off your fucking lazy ass and stop being so freaking fat, people will be like, hell yeah, I needed this today. Because it's not what you normally see. It stands out and it gets people inspired to go do something. I don't hate fat people. I mean, you're not going to fucking have to crush it every day. It's like, it doesn't mean work out every single day, no days off, just crush yourself. No, it just means like stay focused every day. Keep your eyes on like what you need to be doing. And it's like everyone just loves to jump to these like extremes. It's like, yeah, well, you have to stand out to get a message that's going to actually get people to do something. But, since the beginning, it's like, well, I have to be willing to make a few people feel uncomfortable to inspire more people. So that's just been, it's kind of like casualties of war. Essentially, it seems like that. There's always going to be people in the wake that just can't handle it. It's like, then go watch the Disney Channel. Like they put out great content. It's like, go watch someone else that's going to be like, you're awesome. Cool. Like we need those people too. Not everyone wants an arm around their shoulder. Some people just want to get slapped across the face and like, you know what? You're fucking right. So it's like, you're not in a zoo. Stop acting like it.
Well, I think people, I mean, I'm not saying, everybody has a support system in their real life around them at all, but I think there's enough places in the online world and in the real world where you get the arm around the shoulder, you get the coddling. And what attracted me to your platform was, I mean, and I don't take you as, because I can read between the lines. I understand the message you're getting across, and I always have. So it's never, nothing you've ever said has offended me. And I'm just like, I can't believe these people are offended by this stuff. Like, how do you not read between the lines here? But that's what when I look for information, like I said, part of what gears me towards you is you lay down the truth, you lay down the information, and here it is. Do with it what you will. There you go. And it's like, oh, okay, that's what I like. I don't have 80 hours to spend, doing this or that. And there we have some information. So, and I think people either want to get validated for their feelings when they watch a podcast or they look at an Instagram post. They don't want to see somebody tell them, you're a fat ass, go walk around the house. Because they want that, they want to feel better. They want validated. And if you're that type of person, you may always be that type of person. And those types of people, and I know this sounds kind of mean to say, And I feel this way also about people with addictions. And I have people in my family that have addictions. So it's not like I'm speaking out of context at all. If you don't want to be helped, and you obviously are not making any effort to help yourself, regardless of the reach out you get, then you've made your decision. When you're ready, then you'll come find what you're looking for. And it's the same thing about the mental game. You know what I mean? Like you have to be ready to do it. And even still today, like I had that hypoglycemic seizure Friday or whatever, and I haven't been able to work out since then. I probably will try to work out again Thursday. I'm just letting my body recover. But even just the few days of not doing that, like my mental game is off just a little bit because I'm like, oh, I don't feel right. I'm not downstairs doing my weights. I haven't even been walking because I like to walk about 5 miles a day. I haven't been doing any of that to let my body recover. And so it does affect you mentally when it's all so mental, whether it's the fitness part, getting to the point where you want to start your fitness journey, whether it's staying where you're at, whether it's maintaining or progressing. It's so much a mental game. And I think you have to either find somebody strong with a strong opinion and a strong voice like yourself to really put that out there to kind of slap people and say, hey, what are you doing? Wake the fuck up. When you have all these, fitness influencers saying, oh, it's okay, you can eat a large fry from McDonald's and still lose weight. Let me show you how to do it. No, because the person who wants to do that is the person who can't stop themselves from having a second large fry. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
the
so
moderation.
brutal.
That's the moderation group, and they're of course like because those are the people that play the, the calories in, calories out game, and there's nothing wrong with that's physics. That's a conservation of energy, right? Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, as far as we know, and okay, can you lose weight? Like that's not really the issue here. It's learning how to make proper decisions, how your food affects your body. And from personal experience and from, your personal experience, I mean, the elimination diet teaches you more than just, oh, calories in, like you could always count. It teaches you how to understand what your body feels when you eat food and how the food actually affects your body in a positive or negative way. Yeah, there's so much to be said for the truth and what is truth. And then it gets really philosophical. And that's where if you get philosophical with things, it's really hard to make any kind of statement that actually makes sense because, what's truth and what's your truth and what's my truth and like what I believe in my truth. And I think it comes down to, if you really want to define it better, is the person's intent. Like, why are they delivering the information to you in this manner? Why are they presenting it in this manner? What's their underlying message? What's their reason for sending this message? When I say, and I post on Instagram, a little emoji with a zipper saying, shut your fucking mouth, does it mean I want you to have an eating disorder? Come on, really? Does it mean that, I hate you as a person because you're 50 pounds overweight? No, it doesn't say that. Like, no, like, being able to communicate. And of course, like different people's styles is going to resonate with different people, which is great. That's why we have different pages. And that's why you have a lot of people with a lot of followers and a lot of things out there, because it depends on what flavor you like. But if you're pursuing things and understanding that you have the control to pursue these things, I think we're always, what I always find is that people feel like, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? It's always a diet or an exercise or this, like, or this person's content. It's like, I know you're putting stock into like my opinions, but it's like, why do you care what I think? Like, what do I think about keto? It's like, what do you think about keto? Well, I don't know. It's like, then research it. Then you need to learn more about it. What do you think about it? What do you think about supersets? What do you think about them? Have you tried them? Well, I was just wondering, like you just have a thought and like message me and like, oh, what do you think about how should I lose weight? By going and learning how to lose weight. Like, I'm not going to just message you like, how do you get abs? Like, here's my whole diet plan. People give me their whole nutrition thing. Like, I'm not going to read that and break it down in like a DM. Like you have to put in some more effort and get some more context and understand that your effort, like what you plug in to your life and the way you approach things, like that's what matters the most. How do you feel about things? You like my car, you like this, like, what do you think about this? Like, hey, I was like, well, what do you think about it? Are you happy with this? If you're not happy, why are you not happy? People just don't ask. I don't know. I mean, we can just go on a rant forever, but it's just, that's why the meditation is so important. It sounds so foofy when people don't understand it. Same thing with the yoga. I think the yoga in this community is more like mainstream. When I say yoga, people are like, oh, I love yoga. It's not seen as like, oh, that's for girls, or, oh, come on, yoga. But when I say meditation, you still get that kind of like, what? That's really like what you should do to like start losing weight. It's like, because you start learning where you learn where your thoughts come from. You learn why you have certain thoughts. Like, is there anything more important than that? Than understanding, oh, I had this feeling. Why am I having this feeling? Because of this. Oh, and then you're like, I don't have that feeling anymore. It's like, oh, it's gone. It's like you learn how your body works and how you think, and then you understand how other people think, and you realize what's important, and you can segment things. You can segment the social media. You can segment the noise in your life just because you understand, like, oh, that can go, and that can go. Oh, that's that. Cool. Oh, that's that. Cool. And then you stay here. I don't know what you want to follow up with that, but it just seems like, you know, we all share our message online, and a lot of people aren't doing it authentically. They're trying to be a certain person. They're trying to do things a certain way because they think it's going to do X, Y, and Z or make them money. And humans have this sense, this sixth sense to be able to like sniff out like, okay, someone's just kind of trying to scam me, or someone's trying to sell me something. And some people have been burned and hurt before, especially in the fitness industry. It's like, hey, I'm saying like, hey, here's a free ebook. And people are like, what are you trying to sell me? I'm like, well, I have things on my site. You can join a member, or you can just download the free ebook and go on your way. Like, you don't have to sign up. You don't have to. You can check that out. You can check out the podcast, or you don't have to. So a lot of people are always trying to like, oh, this is a trap. It's like, not really. I'm not like going to rob you unless you pay me money for a membership or something. So it's kind of like working against everyone, all the damage that people have been doing already. But yeah, the intent, I think, is probably the best way to like delineate between people that are, and you can sense that humans have that ability to kind of like, you know, feel that through different mediums and different types of content, you know, especially things like live, like this, like live broadcasts, you know, my YouTube videos, my pre-record and edited ones, like driving while gaining, or the nuts on chin ones. Like, of course they're manic. It's because I'm fucking ranting, and it's entertainment, and it's my beliefs, and it's my comedic approach, and it's my video. It's like, you can take it for what it's worth. You know, I'm not saying that I'm a monk or a saint or a scientist, but people love to jump to conclusions and, you know, miss all the other aspects of, you know, of context. But that's like the same thing with anything.
Yeah, going back to what you said about, you know, you'll post something on Instagram with, you know, the emoji with the zipper mouth or whatever, and, you know, somebody comes at you about, oh, you don't want me to eat, you want me to be anorexic. It's like, you have all the people in whatever movement they're in, whether it's fat acceptance or the healthy at every size, or whatever movement they're in. And they want to come at you for something like that because, oh, how dare you make that assumption? Well, in my opinion, if their mind automatically goes to that thought when they see that, then they haven't accepted themselves. You know what I mean? Like, they're looking for acceptance from you and everybody else to make them feel good about themselves, but they know that they're not healthy and there's something, you know, going on. So they don't even accept themselves. So to me, that's like so crazy when I see comments and people, you know, try to get a banter back and forth. And it's just like, no. And as soon as you can accept yourself, come talk to me. But yeah, not until then. And, you know, people wanting to look a certain way or look like this person or that person. I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I first started with my trainer, I mean, I was excited because I was like, oh, because he competes in bodybuilding. So he's, you know, the whole shebang and all that. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to look so good. I'm going to get so ripped, you know? Well, it took me a while and a lot of learning about myself to know that, okay, number one, I'm 44 years old. So the loose skin from the 160-pound weight loss is not exactly going away like it would on a 20-year-old. So that's still there. And then I have a scar on my abdomen from a surgery I had when I was a baby. And that prevents, like, I'll never have a six pack. You know what I mean? Like, I'll never have that chiseled look. And I'm okay with that because that's just how my body is. Right. Not everybody can look a certain way. And it took me a minute to realize that. But once you do, once you know that you look good for you and you're happy with you, then, you know, that's a game changer right there. I mean, it's amazing how that, you know, people ask me all the time, or, oh, you're going to have skin removal surgery. I'm like, why would I? You know, it's not a health issue at all.
But that's the difference between self-acceptance. That's what, when I refer to loving yourself, mm-hmm. that's what I'm referring to. Like, that's what I think the right message for loving yourself. It's like, there are things that you can't change. There are things that you are given when you're born or that have happened to you that you can't change no matter what, even whether it's surgery or like what's it going to turn into. And, that's acceptance and not putting effort in terms of those other movements that kind of like blur those lines. But that's where that kind of a message gets misrepresented, of course, in my opinion, is that it's shifted from something like that where like I accept what I have. I'm working hard and I'm living my best life, and this is the situation. So I'm not going to like try to, micromanage my existence and be miserable. But it doesn't mean that you're going to accept being, 310 pounds.
Right. I always tell people it's kind of a joke. They're like, "Well, what is your goal body? What do you hope to look like?" They always say when you're done, and I'm like, I'll never be done. I'm always going to take care of myself. But I'm like, I just want to look like a bikini competitor in the off season. Like, I don't want to look any certain way. I want to look good for myself. I want to fit comfortably in my clothes. If I feel like walking around my house naked and catch myself in a mirror, I don't want to freak out and like be disgusted by it. You know what I mean? But other than that, I don't have any goals as far as looking a certain way. I do enjoy not bodybuilding, but like strength training. I enjoy watching what my body can do, like how you can shape your arms and your legs and you can create a physique. I think that's really interesting, how you can manipulate your body to do the things you want it to do. But it's not something I plan to pursue in any other reason other than entertainment for myself. You know what I mean?
Do you think that's something
So,
that more people have to look for in terms of their training and their nutrition? And like, do you think people need to stop worrying so much about, because obviously physical means you're losing weight. Okay, that's good for your health. But then that's kind of getting overlapped with, looking a certain way, which is different than weight loss to avoid obesity and those types of complications. But then having abs is different than just being a healthier body weight. You don't need abs to be healthy. You don't need to have a six pack, visible, abdominal muscles to be healthy. Do you think that's would benefit more people to pursue health and training and lift hard, but not worry so much about the aesthetics from that perspective, like from the abdominals perspective? And then it'll work itself out.
I mean, I think so because what I found, of course, just what I've learned online and what I've read in books and different things. And, I still like buy actual books and read them because I'm a nerd like that. But, you're like, and I know you've said it before, not everybody's going to have a 6 or 8 pack set of abs. Like you're maybe not built for that. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times it's harder for women too, because maybe genetically we carry more fat in that area because of childbirth, those types of things. I've read that too. I don't know how accurate that is as far as a medical standpoint. I don't know anything about that medically, but I think that if what I found to be true to me is that by staying consistent, doing the basics, your body's going to change. I mean, like there are some days I go downstairs and work out and I get done and I look in the mirror and I can see my abs on the side. Like I can see the line. I just don't see that like the actual blocks. You know what I mean? Like I can see the muscle. So I know they're there. And honestly, to me, like that's just validation that the steps that I'm taking is making me healthier. I'm not going to look like a model. I'm not going to look like, a perfect competitor or anything like that. And I don't care to, I'm happy with where I'm at. Other people, I mean, maybe some people, I know there's people I've seen on Instagram that have had really large weight losses that do compete, like for pro cards and things. There's a division for that, I guess, for natural transformation or something. I don't know. And if that's what they choose to do, then I mean, more power to you. But I think you should not base your goal, your ideas about health or your goals about your health on what your biceps look like or what your abs look like or if your glutes are perky enough or I mean you need, if you stay consistent with your training, your body is going to shape into the shape it's meant to be is kind of my philosophy of it. Like I always thought I had like broad shoulders. I thought I was kind of square and boxy. I just thought that was my body shape. But I'm seeing now that's not the case. I mean, I don't train excessively hard. I mean, I do progressive overload and that kind of thing, but I'm not like training for an event or anything like that. And my waist is small, and I've created a shape just by being consistent with everything that I do. And it may not give me the exact body that Miss Olympia that just got crowned got, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But it's going to be the body that works for me and my life and what I need. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the best message. I think that's a great place to wrap it up. What I'd like to do is just give you, another couple minutes just to, maybe your final thoughts, because we covered a lot of like just social issues and we talked about nutrition, but mostly about your journey and, your perspective, because a lot of people that are watching, a lot of people that will be listening later too, are, they've gone through those periods of where they've gone through weight loss, or they've been trying for repeatedly over and over again, smashing their head against the wall and then failing, falling off, hitting a plateau. They're in a plateau. They don't know where to start. Like what's maybe like a succinct way, maybe, I know I just kind of gave you a couple topics, but what would you recommend, or what would you suggest to people that are looking to not necessarily lose 160 pounds, but, make a positive change in their life? Like when someone says, I don't know where to start, like where would be the best place for me to start? Someone who's just kind of maybe either struggling with their nutrition and training, or like literally hasn't started, like, and doesn't have any familiarity with it.
I mean, the easiest thing I would think for somebody to start it is just that when you go to the grocery store the next time, you know what? Shop the outer aisle. Just make a little better decisions, bypass the little Debbie snack cake, bypass the center aisles. I mean, walk around and see what there is. Don't just, if you surround yourself with better foods, you're going to eat the better foods. You're not going to reach for something very easy to snack on. And, that's what I do. Like, I don't snack at all, really. I mean, I might have an apple or some fruit or something, but if I keep things that are snacky at the house, I will snack on them because I'm a boredom eater. But I would say to try that, and stay consistent. Like, don't just do it for a week. Don't just do it for, 4 or 5 days and say, oh, I've been doing so good, I'm gonna go eat a pizza. Don't do that, because you're sabotaging yourself. I know, you think it's a good thing, but just stay consistent and make small changes. If you can't make big, huge changes all at once, if your mind's not there, then make very small changes. Maybe, if you want to start walking, but you can't walk very far or whatever, walk down your driveway and back. Do that a couple times a day. If you sit, like I sit at a desk all day at work for 8 hours a day, plus I drive 45 minutes each way. So I'm sitting a lot of the day. Every hour I try to get up and I walk around our office park complex, and it's about a quarter of a mile. And it takes about 5 minutes because I walk pretty quick. And I do that every hour. Everybody can go take a smoke break. I take a walk break,
That's awesome.
So just make little small changes like that. And before long, you won't even know you're doing them, but just keep doing them. And then those small changes will become a little bit bigger and a little bit more progressive, and then before long, you've created a habit that you can build upon. I mean, I think that's a really easy, I don't want to say easy, it's a simple way, but it's, you have to get your mind to do it. But I would recommend people just make the small changes at first. If they don't think they can commit to a big, huge, all or nothing, deal.
I 100% agree. I think that kind of progressive habit forming that's how you start anything. Some people just do a lot of them at once, and a lot of people struggle with that. But yeah, that's a beautiful way to end it. That's a great message. And that's something that everyone, no matter what your goal is, no matter what you're trying to do, even if it's not fitness related, that's a great piece of advice just for life in general. Just start making those little small changes and then do them over and over again until it just becomes a habit. Yeah. Well, Christy, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I mean, you're very welcome. I want you to just stick around for a couple moments after I close it out. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. And you're just a huge part of Swolenormous X, and you're helping a lot of people. And I know this podcast will resonate with a lot of people. It did with everyone that's watching live, but also later on, just because there's so many little nuggets when you hear someone's personal story and personal journey with Journey. Now every time I say journey, I'm going to be laughing like Christy's like, your fucking journey. But it's your life. Your life.
You're
And
gonna see me one day. I'm gonna post a picture. I'm gonna go have a shirt made that says "Fuck your journey."
fuck your journey. Fuck your journey. Well, the fuck your resolutions shirt is coming out. So that's
Oh
good.
yeah, I'm buying that one.
I
for sure.
can't I can't wait to rock one myself. That's gonna be great for the next like 3 months. Gonna make a lot of friends. Everyone's gonna be like, oh, Christmas and no Halloween. As you see my post with the same freaking colors, like, fuck your resolutions, all angry and stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's always great to hear from you and just hear, your perspective on things. So thanks again. And yeah, we'll talk in a couple moments. I'll just kind of sign you off for a second. All right. All right. Bye everyone. Say bye. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for episode 1236 of the most muscular Swolecast, Beercast, Broadcast, Gamecast, Mancast, Pimpcast, Sleazecast, and Slaycast in the realm, because when I flex, you flex, we all flex our biceps. Again, that was Christy Mayberry, and she's one of our Swolenormous X members. If you want to learn more, check out swolenormousx.com. If you want to learn more about just the elimination diet, there's stuff on the blog. There's links to apparel and stuff like that. If you're interested in joining the fam, there's also links there that will break it all down for you. But all of you that are watching, thank you so much for being a part of this in the comments. Thanks for asking questions. A lot of your feedback was great. And I saw little side conversations now and again, which was cracking me up. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of your attention. And I'll see you tomorrow for episode 1237 of The Sleaze. Peace, McGeese. Deuce, Magoose. Your boy, Papa Swolio. Out.